a tremendous amount of what I do is instinctive, and I feel this would be a good painting. And then the effect it has on other people is I'm hardly responsible for. I mean, what I'm responsible for is seeing the beginning, seeing it's going to be a painting. Art should be a testimony of our human condition. And so I think the most direct one that you can apply yourself to is the human countenance. I mean, what we look like, what we feel like, what we're made of. The fact that we're small, then we grow, then we die, is what preoccupies me the most, and I think most people. And I take a joy in the diversity and complexity of human faces. When you finish a painting of someone's face, rather than a portrait, the things that make it really good are entirely based on memory. I want really to paint exactly what I see. And some brilliant, sensational painters were much more interested in how we see than what we see. And I have huge admiration for that, but I have to resign myself to being the sort of painter who only wants to paint what he sees, because I get such a kick out of it. I first went into the Jefferson Center to see the room I'd been allotted for my exhibition, and the first thing that struck me is how high it was, how high the ceilings were. And I suddenly said, this is a chance in a lifetime. And so I decided to do a painting specifically for the museum, specifically in honor of that show, if you like, with some reference to Savannah. It's called The Low Country, for a very good reason. I mean, everything seems incredibly flat and huge, but it was living on the river, on the Wilmington River, that I did a lot of paintings, because all these wonderful horizontals of the water and the marsh and were sort of cut by the verticals of the pylons and the various constructions on the river. And so it was just it was begging to be painted. Suddenly an arrangement of nature strikes me as a painting. I do portraits of places, not landscapes. It's really a specific place, or a specific part of a specific place. And then, because I've thought and thought about it, now of course I wanted the water and the marshes where we've lived. And I thought of a diver because of an extraordinary little painting on a tomb outside Pompeii, I should say. Sort of it prefigures Picasso. It's absolutely beautiful. And it's a very, very simple thing of a man diving. And I thought I could do a Savannah diver. So I did a lot of preparatory sketches for that. And then, quite incidentally, I was taking lots of photographs of the Delta plantation. And while I was taking pictures, the friend who took me there, who is a keen swimmer and a famous swimmer in Savannah called Nash McIntosh, decided to take a swim and started swimming up and down. So I just took pictures of him, because I just take pictures whenever I see anything. And when I got home and I saw what I'd taken, I saw that I had a second painting, a second big painting. And so we could do the diver and the swimmer. So it was a man in air, a man in water. The whole thing to start with was a sort of nightmare of organizing. I had to rent a very large place in order to be able to do them, find people who could stretch canvases that big. And then, thank goodness, two of my ex-students, who are now accomplished painters themselves, Gary Greer and John Vaughan, came to help me, and without them I couldn't possibly have done it. Luckily, I prepared everything very thoroughly, so I knew what to do. But I couldn't possibly have done it without them, and I had the feeling I was like a chef, you know, with sous chefs. At the beginning of the day, I'd tell them, let's do this, this, and that. Then I didn't have to worry about it, because I knew they knew what I was talking about. And they worked incredibly hard. We only had 5 days to produce these two huge things. So the making of the big paintings is in itself an artistic adventure, and particularly when people initially thought I was slightly mad. Where were they going to go? Who was going to buy them? All that, which should never influence a painter, because if you start thinking of that, half the thing you should do, you won't do. But I like to think they really added to the show. And just for the naysayers, one of them is already sold.
Well, it's, for me, the most satisfying show of my life because of this incredible space. And the pictures are, go back, I suppose the oldest picture is about 20 years old. But they don't sort of contradict each other. It really works. And although we thought there'd be far too many paintings for the show, we said we were going to have to put some in storage. It somehow all fit in like the perfect jigsaw. And I truly get a kick out of walking in and seeing all my work so beautifully shown.
I always think modern is what I want to be. Consequently, obviously, when young people react emotionally or sort of enthusiastically to my work, my painting, I'm doubly thrilled. Logically, there should be a link between the young and the world we live in, which is contemporary, modern, whatever you want to call it. All these words are used to describe specific movements in painting and time. I mean, it's like people say, no, I've stopped doing contemporary, I now do modern. The thing that most irritates me is this idea that everything has to be a pastiche of something, that the only thing which is acceptable is irony. And conceptual in itself, what does that mean, really? I mean, it means that you have an idea, a concept. In itself, for a painter, a concept is not sufficient. And so I'd rather be referred to as a painter, quite honestly, because there are very few painters in the great sort of chaos of modern contemporary art. There are relatively few painters, people who literally use paint, put it on canvas. I want to somehow express my life, the world in which I move and which I find a wonderful world. That's another thing. They all have to be so gloomy about everything. I mean, sometimes you can rejoice, can't you? I mean, there is beauty in the world, and then there's love in the world. Now, how much contemporary art talks about love? That I really would like to, that would sort of be a one-page essay.